Good afternoon, University of Windsor. I'm Dawn Trache, and this is the 30 News. The recent UWSA election, where the option none of the above emerged victorious, coupled with the BDS referendum, have catapulted the University of Windsor into the spotlight this week, making national headlines. Controversial host Ezra Levant discussed the issues, portraying them both as being tied to radical Islamic elements because the referendum campaign and one of the slates defeated in the election were led by Palestinians. Reporter Ashley Quinton has more on the story.
I mean, this is something that's unprecedented, not just at the University of Windsor, but in student politics. So we've made history.
The University of Windsor Student Alliance is once again under scrutiny after an election where none of the positions for executive members or board of directors were filled. The UWSA President Rob Crawford talks about what their next step will be.
You know, I think that's yet to be determined. I think a lot of it's going to depend on what comes out of the next couple of weeks and what actions the university takes and what actions we can take as an organization.
The None of the Above movement is a grassroots initiative to bring transparency to the UWSA elections and governance. Some students are saying this project negatively affects democracy. Political scientist Dr. Cheryl Collier disagrees.
They were motivated by what they saw as a lack of a democratic process, which in and of itself, making that effort is democracy at work.
Collier hopes the vote None of the Above maintains their momentum and continues to encourage students to be involved with university politics. Former president of the UWSA, Kim Orr, knows firsthand the problems with the student union are not new.
I think a lot of the problems that got raised by the None of the Above campaign are systemic problems that can't be laid entirely on the shoulders of the people who are running in the slate. But that being said, someone's got to address those problems and they've got to be dealt with, and pretending that they don't exist, which has been generally the way they've been dealt with in the past, is not the right way to go about it.
One of the biggest concerns, especially with the latest election, is low voter turnout. The UWSA had a hard time creating awareness this year, with almost a 10% drop from nearly 40% to 30% turnout from last year. Crawford feels that it is a major issue, but there are deeper concerns.
You know, quite honestly, I don't think social media is the solution to the UWSA's problems. I think it's more of a systemic issue having to do with the way that we're actually organized and the way our Constitution operates and our bylaws. So I think what this provides an opportunity for is a drastic overhaul of the student government.
Adam Bednarik, the founder of None of the Above group, talks about their next move.
We're going to be working to get the word out across campus in as many ways that we can about the election, to make sure that virtually every student knows about it, knows about the positions, knows about the requirements, and really has enough information to think about it with everything in mind.
The University of Windsor and human rights lawyer Raj Anand are conducting an ongoing investigation regarding the BDS referendum as well as the governance of the UWSA from 2012 until 2014. The details of the investigation will hopefully be released early on next week. For the 30 News, I'm Ashley Quinton.
Have you ever had a question that no one could answer? Well, now is your chance to have researchers from around the world take a crack at it. Brian Kahn tells us more.
When I saw Research Matters, I thought, yes, it does matter, and so that's what I'm doing here.
Salsabil Al-Mansouri is a curious University of Windsor student. She stopped at the Curiosity Shop in the CAW Student Center to ask her question.
So this is actually a public relations initiative that was launched by the Council of Ontario Universities to increase awareness about the importance of university-level education. So the Curiosity Shop is a project, it's basically, think of it as sort of a traveling photo booth, if you will, that goes around to all 21 cities in Ontario that has a university, sets up, and it's an opportunity for people to come in and ask questions about anything that they're curious about.
But why is this initiative important? Al-Mansouri tells us more.
I'm an educator, and there's so much research going on in the field of education. but there's not enough educators that are using that research.
The whole point of this is to try to get the community actually engaging with research. We kind of have this sense that a lot of times people are really disconnected from what researchers are actually doing on university campuses. So the whole point is to try to make it more relevant to people's lives and to get their thoughts on what are they interested in, what are people in the community interested in when it comes to research.
So then how does the Curiosity Shop actually work?
So, why is the sky blue? How do you build a lightsaber? Why do we have bacteria in our bodies? And those questions are then posted on the Research Matters website and circulated among both faculty and student researchers at all of Ontario's universities. And we try to provide an answer for these people within about 4 or 5 days.
If you would like to see your question answered, log on to yourontarioresearch.ca to find out more. For the 30 News, I'm Brian Kahn.
The potential long-term effects of head injuries in sports has professional and amateur athletes wondering if they are doing irreparable harm simply by playing the games they love. Could this be the end of contact in sports? Brendan Johnson gives us a quick glimpse in this short preview of an ongoing investigation.
Hitting has always been a part of hockey, but with more and more research pointing to concussions leaving permanent effects and damage to the brain, players, parents, coaches, and doctors are all opening their eyes to the dangers of the invisible injury.
So what happens in concussion is we have either a direct hit or an indirect impact for the head. With the direct impact for the head, there could be bleeding with what we call a macroscopic or a big impact that you can see on an MRI or a picture, or that is not visible impact. Not visible impact, there is what we call microscopic or a minor impact, and that can lead to a weakness in the brain control on the eyes or on the body in general.
My first concussion was in a hockey fight when I was 16 years old. That was my first diagnosed concussion. What it felt like, it's really hard to describe. It's more or less what I think it felt like. I don't really remember the incident in its entirety. It was almost like a fog. Like I was in an out of person experience, if you will. You knew everything was going wrong. Everything was. You knew something bad happened. You didn't know exactly what occurred. But I mean, it was just like a complete fog, complete mental fog.
So when people have an impact in the head, they come up with symptoms for us. They come up with symptoms like blurry vision, double vision sometimes, difficulty with reading, and dizziness, hard to see 3D movies, and headaches. And so this is what we call post-trauma vision syndrome.
I would say I never actually recovered from that concussion, and I never have to this day. What happened was that I got sustained other concussions before I actually healed. It's second impact syndrome. It makes I actually consider myself very lucky because 50% of second impact syndrome victims or athletes that sustain a second concussion before their initial concussion is recovered actually die. So I consider myself very lucky that I'm still talking to you right now today.
For the full report on concussions and head injuries in sports, tune in to the30.ca in the upcoming weeks. Brendan Johnson reporting.
Joining us now is 30 News reporter Brendan Johnson, who's exploring the topic of brain injuries in sports. So tell us about the topic and what your findings have been so far.
Well, the topic is, of course, brain injuries in sports and mainly hockey. I kind of wanted to give more exposure to the topic as it's it's coming up more and more in the news. However, it's still not a very prominent issue. And a lot of my findings have been that it's not as serious of an issue as a lot of the media make it seem to be. However, the proper protocols do need to be taken care of in order for players to play the game safely, and of course, if they are injured, to stay out of the game until they are safe to return to play.
And what was your motivation for exploring a topic like this?
Well, hockey's always been my favorite sport, and I've played, and You keep hearing about players dying from overdoses, suicides, and I was curious, of course, to see what could have been the cause of these. And a lot of these brain issues do tie into the fact that they are depressed. They use a lot of substances. So it's just a really interesting idea that the brain injuries have a huge effect on a player's post-hockey career life.
And where do you think this topic will go in the future?
Well, again, as I said, it's still starting to be researched, so there's a lot more research that is yet to be done, and I think with more and more findings, they will find better ways to reduce the amount of injuries, and of course it's not all going to be reduced. However, there's ways of limiting certain injuries, so hopefully you will see less and less brain injuries in sports like hockey.
Hopefully we will. Speaking about brains, studies show that it is important to give your brain a break when studying or working. Danielle Latondras shows us more great places in Windsor to refresh your mind during the last few weeks of school.
Now that the weather is warming up and exams are fast approaching, there are a few spots in Windsor that have great study break potential, starting with the Art Gallery of Windsor, which is free to the admission and has over 4,000 works of art. Taking a study break is important. It helps your brain process everything that you're putting into it from your studies. Right across the road from the Art Gallery of Windsor is the Riverside. This is another great place to take a break. Having more than 4 kilometers of hiking trails, Davonwood is a perfect study break spot, being located right in the middle of Windsor. Davonwood is only one of the great wooded areas in Windsor, where you can go for a walk, bike, or run. Not far from the university, you will find Micmac and Malden Park. Micmac has many different sporting fields, and Malden has some beautiful scenic trails. There are also a lot of leisure activities here on campus, watching a sporting event, watching the university players, or even going to the International Student Center. Make sure that you study hard, but also take a little bit of time for yourself. I'm Janelle Tonders with the 30.
The unsafe traffic conditions surrounding Vincent Massendary Secondary School have parents and the surrounding community sounding off. Reporter Asil Musa was there to give them a voice for their concerns.
I think the biggest concern is the safety of the students that are attending Massey.
Mary Guthrie lives by Vincent Massey Secondary School. She, alongside many other residents and parents, share concerns regarding the safety of the overwhelming amount of traffic during the school's pickup and drop-off times.
I have had at least 2 or 3 close calls with parents driving their children to Massey who have not, shall we say, obeyed the traffic laws appropriately.
Ward 1 Councillor Drew Dilkins held a meeting in late February to discuss the concerns of residents and parents regarding the traffic. Representatives from the Windsor Police, Traffic and Transportation Planning, Transit Windsor, the Greater Essex County District School Board, the City of Windsor, and Massey Parent Council were also present for the meeting and answered questions posed to them. The busy traffic situation at Massey has been an ongoing issue for many years, but the increasing student population and this year's rough winter has made it much worse.
So you've got 1,800 kids who are going to high school here. The last thing we want are car accidents and kids hit by cars, and that's happened here.
Parent and teacher Christine Morton shares other concerns as well.
I think it's difficult to get into the school. I met with a parent after school today, and he had to park a distance away. He couldn't get to the school to even park to meet with me about his child, so I think it's a concern in many different ways.
Principal Larry Ash notes the Massey neighborhood is not ideal for walking.
I see students walking in the streets and no sidewalks being available to them.
Many ideas were brought up during the meeting. Among them is having better communication with parents to let them know the traffic laws around the school and where they can pick up and drop off their children safely.
But at least we'll be prepared. We'll have the summer to be able to implement some communications for the parents, communication items translated so that we can reach out to the most number of parents here at the school, and then look at other road configurations, some geometry issues, and see whether there's a way to use school board property in a way that makes sense and gets cars off the road.
I think we're going to need certainly a traffic study who are the professionals at this, and everybody was very concerned about their picking up their child in a very timely manner, which I certainly do understand. It's a busy world. world. It's a busy life, and certainly people want to get on the move and get going. But we can't compromise safety when we do that, and that scares me and worries me.
And so it's incumbent upon us to look at what we can do to make this safer, because everyone expects their kids to be safe at school and they expect them to come home safely. And to the extent that kids are injured, that's not acceptable.
Councillor Dilkens will take what he learned from this meeting and work together with city and school board officials over the summer in seeking solutions. He will then present them to the community and ask for feedback in another meeting in the near future. I'm Asil Musa with the 30 News.
And a big congratulations goes to the women's basketball team for winning the Canadian University Championship for the 4th time. That's all we have for this afternoon. I'm Dawn Trache. Thank you.